Welcome to the first meeting of 2024 of the City of Burnside Council. Happy New Year to all those here and those watching from home. May the decisions we make tonight and during the coming year be mindful of our whole community's needs, considering our diversity, being inclusive and weighing up the varied wants of our ratepayers and residents of all ages with the difficult demands required of us with regard to our budget. Before we commence, could I just make sure that everybody has their mobile phones turned off or on silent so that they are not to be used during council meetings. Please stand and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land that we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. Since it's been a few weeks, just a reminder to use your microphone to register your intent to enter the debate and wait until I've asked you to speak, acknowledging the chair appropriately and keeping to the 3-minute time limit. Please turn off your microphone when you have finished speaking. Please be respectful and patient and listen to each speaker without disturbing them or interrupting them. Decisions should be made after consideration of all relevant perspectives and points of view. Now to the agenda. There are, as I informed you, 2 deputations tonight and a question from public for public question time. And then when I go through the reports, please indicate your desire to withdraw each one quickly, otherwise I'll seek a mover and a seconder immediately. We have no absences tonight. Is there anyone who wishes to declare interest? No, not at this stage, thank you. Confirmation of minutes, I need someone to move the minutes of the last council meeting. Councillor Cornish, thank you. Councillor Turnbull seconding. All those in favour? Against? Carried. There is no adjourned business, but we do have a number of public presentations, the first one being the public question time. So if you would like to come forward, please, and state your name and the suburb you live in. And there's a button on the base of the speaker, of the microphone. It says speak. If you press that, that will then enable you to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor, the CEO, thank you for the opportunity to address you. Have each of the councillors received the lodgement that I logged in last Wednesday?
No, that they will receive it with the response, and that will be in the minutes.
Because I'd be grateful if they can consider it. I won't address that now. Can I give you a brief overview of...
No, you can only ask a question.
The question is, why is Council unwilling to prevent a neighbour's weekly waste other than stormwater discharge onto and through our stormwater drain to our Godfrey Terrace curb? That is the question. We didn't know about the full extent of all of this until August 2021, when another neighbour notified us of paint coming out of our drain. I spoke to our neighbour.
You've gone beyond the question now, so we have got a response and the CEO has that response ready for you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, just before that, can I just make one very brief comment? The website for the Burnside Council says you can't drain your property onto a neighbour's land. And secondly and finally, I discovered correspondence from the council in 2011 for a Stanley Street property which talked about restrictions in the same topics. And we remain concerned that our neighbour is permitted or not prohibited from a discharge onto our property, notwithstanding the initial attendance of the Ranger Matt Deckard, who indicated that it shouldn't be occurring.
Thank you. And now Mr Cowley, our CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. In my response, I will be going through a little bit of history just to elaborate perhaps on part of your submission. It's a matter that it's not about us being unwilling to assist you, it's more to the point that we're legally unable. This matter dates back to 1999 when yourself as the owner permitted the owner of 9 Lockwood to drain water from their property through 76 Godfrey to the street drainage system. If there was a development compliance issue at that point in time, it ceased to be actionable over 20 years ago. However, even if there was only 10 years ago, the same response would apply that I'm giving you now. Now, my understanding is you probably had that response from my staff many times, and also from our legal advisors. And just to paraphrase a little bit of the advice that was provided by Paul Kelly from Normans, the connection and disconnection of Mr Rogerson's stormwater pipe into Mr Janis's system is a matter between him and Mr Rogerson. Council will not / should not get involved. Mr Janis agreed. He permitted Mr Rogerson to connect his stormwater over 10 years ago, and the advice at that point in time, and I'd restate that advice to you now, is that Mr Janis was advised to write to Mr Rogerson advising of the pending disconnection, and for Mr Rogerson to make alternate arrangements to ensure that no damage happens to your property as a result of that. So again, I'll restate, it's not that we're sitting on our hands, it's just that we don't have the legal position to provide that assistance. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, I appreciate what you've said before. Can I briefly respond to that?
No, because public question, if you were doing a deputation, as you will hear later, you may have that opportunity. But in this case, a public question time is used to ask a question, provide, and for the administration to provide an answer. And that's the limitations of the purpose of public question time. So I can't allow you to continue any further.
That's fine. Can I ask,
No.
Would Mr Cowley be willing to confer with me at another time?
The answer is yes.
Oh, thank you
At
for
some
that.
other time, certainly.
I appreciate that.
But not at this time.
No, I understand that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for coming in.
We're free to go?
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
We have no presentations, but we do have 2 deputations tonight. The first deputation is from Mr Inat, and I'll let him introduce himself and the topic of his deputation.
Thank you, Mayor and members. I'm here to talk to you about an item 15.1 on...
Would you just state your name and
Henry,
suburb?
Henry Inat, resident at Beaumont. I'm here to talk about item 15.1 on your agenda this evening. The matter relates to 2 Aleppo pine trees in front of our property at Caithness Avenue, Beaumont. This is the second deputation opportunity to discuss this matter with Council. My family and I have lived at this property for near on 17 years. There are 2 key matters of concern relating to the 2 trees that are on Council property and are Council trees. And those concerns are safety and damage to property. We chose to live at this property as we have and continue to appreciate the quality of the area, which is very much enhanced by all the trees. The 2 trees in question, we acknowledge that they were there at the time we purchased the property, and we have been living with the trees ever since, obviously. The consequence of the trees relative to our enjoyment of our property have been both positive and negative. In respect to the positive aspects of the trees and the contributions they make to our living at our home, they include shade, they include the trees acting as windbreaks, they include them providing habitat for birds and other animals, and their aesthetic quality. Appreciating that, these pine trees in themselves aren't particularly attractive, but they are a tree nevertheless. Notwithstanding the positive attributes of the trees, there are negative impacts that have reached a point now where the trees are, from our perspective, a real safety concern and a threat. In terms of safety, The primary tree of concern is a tree located immediately adjacent to our driveway and is the primary point of contact to our property. That is the driveway to our property. We drive in and we walk into our house at this point. My family, including my 3 children and I, walk underneath the tree canopy every day on multiple occasions. You can imagine 5 people living in a house and the coming and goings. Over the past 3 to 5 years, we have had approximately 10 incidences where tree branches have fallen on that part of our property and on council verge where we traverse on a daily basis, coming and going from our house. To be honest, it's a miracle that no one in my family has had a branch fall on them. In addition to the natural trim failure, the same tree, again closest to our property, has had 30 trunks removed over the years, evidenced by the cut wounds. There still remains 4 large trunks on the same side of the tree that overhang our driveway and our principal point of access to our house. One day, sooner or later, one or more of these remaining tree trunks overhang our driveway, where I and my wife and my 3 children, family, friends, visitors, and the general public traverse on a daily basis will fail and cause serious damage or injury or worse. I also note that the tree nearest our driveway has a definite lean towards the driveway. This changing position of the tree further adds to our anxiety each day when we walk under the tree. In respect to the status and integrity of the tree, we note the independent arborist advice received, which I understand you've been provided for within your agenda item, which documents that there are signs of dead wood in the tree. This must surely be a further flag demonstrating that the tree structure is unstable. I remind councillors of the huge Aleppo pine in Brock Reserve that fell across Dashwood Road only just recently and only some 200 metres from our property. So that's safety. And then there's damage. So the damage to property, our house. We have been at a point now for some 2 or 3 years where the sap from the trees, caused as a consequence of pruning undertaken by council staff or contractors, again given the positioning of the trunks relative to our house, is falling on our house, is falling on the walkway to our house, is falling on our stairs, on our front facade, on our front terrace and deck. Council staff or its contractors who have painted the cut points on the tree with black paint has further exacerbated the problem. We have black sap everywhere. We have needed to remove furniture from our terrace due to the damage caused by the sap. We cannot use half of the space on our deck terrace nearest the tree because of the sap. The falling sap has seriously compromised our enjoyment of our front terrace deck. We cannot avoid but walk on the sap to get into our property, which finds its way into our house. Please be assured that this situation is not a matter of nuisance. It's not about the pollen, it's not about the pine needles. That's a natural consequence. We have lived with the nuisance caused by the trees, but these impacts are beyond the pale. However, and when is enough enough? So in summary, in conclusion, the 2 key issues here are safety and damage to property. The issues of safety and damage have reached a point where reasonable action needs to be taken. Past efforts to address the impacts of the tree, particularly falling branches, have not worked. The situation has worsened and as a consequence of the black sap falling everywhere. The action needed now is the removal of the tree nearest the driveway. I've just got 2 seconds if I could. Should it be considered necessary that this one tree needs to be removed and the second tree will be compromised and should also be removed, well, that's a matter for council. We have not asked for 2 trees to be removed. We've only asked for the one nearest the driveway. As mentioned at our last deputation back in March, which my wife gave, I remind council that its own urban street strategy expressly identifies and states the removal of this pinus species of plants along Caithness Avenue, Beaumont, and it's part of the removal strategy. So on behalf of my family, I ask that council decide tonight to implement your own tree strategy and have one or both of these trees in front of our property at Caithness Avenue removed. Further...
Thank you, Mr. Annett. I've given you a...
Sure, okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Right, so now, is there anyone who wishes to ask Mr. Annett a question? Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you for coming in. I've got two interrelated questions. Is it correct that you applied to the council for the pruning of the tree to reduce the overhang on your additions? And following up from that, was there sap before the prunings?
We've not asked for the tree to be pruned relative to our dwelling or the garage that was approved by council. The only time that pruning has been asked by us is when a tree has half fallen and has been hanging from the tree and has been a hazard, a risk concern. So yes, we've been proactive in approaching council when tree limbs are hanging by a thread and need to be removed, but there's been no relationship and or request from us for any pruning relative to our dwelling per se.
Was there sap before the pruning? Did you have trouble with the sap?
Pruning has always occurred as a consequence of the cuttings, and which have been exacerbated since they've been all painted black.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Jones.
Henry, thank you for coming. Perhaps I can ask a follow-up question. When you moved in 17 years ago, was there a problem with the sap, or has that happened in later years as the tree's been pruned when these dangerous limbs have been removed? I think is what Councillor Turnbull was...
Well, it's always been a consequence of the tree pruning that's occurred, that sap has fallen, and and since the first cuttings, I can't recall when that occurred, but since then, and it's increased in sort of frequency relative to the need to cut limbs and trunks off, and then more recently when those cutting points were painted black, then it sort of exacerbated the visual and then the consequence of that.
If there are no other questions, then I will thank you very much for coming in. And of course, this report is a confidential report later on in the meeting, so you're very welcome to leave. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Annette. Right, our second deputation comes from Mr. Neville Martin. And Mr. Martin, if you'd like to come forward to the microphone. And I forgot to remind you, but you've probably heard you get a warning bell at 4 minutes and then another bell. And I will allow you kind of to finish a sentence, but not to go on too long beyond the 5 minutes. Thank you. Sorry, just your name and suburb.
And I'm a resident of Tusmore for 45 years. I'm here speaking on behalf of a deputation which is asking the council to take notice of the concern of residents of Tusmore regarding the encroachment of private commercial operations into the established zone of Tusmore, the established neighbourhood zone of Tusmore. As you know, Tusmore is a residential area of significant character with substantial Tudor and bungalow-style homes of recognised architectural merit. The residents take pride in their neighbourhood. The residential amenity is a precious feature of the area. Any change to the existing character of the area would be a seismic shift. It would be totally inconsistent with those features which make the community of Tusmore a desirable place to live. The commercialisation of Tusmore would not be in the interests of the community. Council should therefore not be surprised that the residents of Tusmore are strongly against any such change, and it's not unreasonable to call upon the Council to stand with them on this critical issue. None of us want to see Tusmore transformed into a business hub, particularly when there is no shortage of unused office space in existing commercial precincts. This deputation is therefore calling on the Council to take all action within its power to preserve and protect the residential character of Tusmore. In the case of schemes to commercialise the zone, whether directly or by stealth, one would think that after requiring strict compliance with relevant zone policies, subjecting any change of use proposal to rigorous examination, and requiring verification of all supporting assertions, that would be the end of the matter. If, despite all of this, the residential character of Tusmore is still under threat, then the zone policies cannot be fit for purpose. In these circumstances, the Council must ensure that the strongest representations are made to the Minister of Planning regarding the situation, including the need for any amendments to those policies to safeguard that residential character. We also ask the Council to note our concerns regarding the limited notification requirements presently applying to change of use applications. The current footprint for notifications is limited to residents within 60 metres of the subject land. This is a very small footprint, which is wholly inadequate in the case of a change of use which has much wider ramifications. The Council should therefore make representations to the Minister of Planning regarding a more appropriate notification footprint for change of use applications. We believe the footprint should be significantly enlarged. Finally, and regardless of the outcome of any representations to the Minister, we call on the Council to adopt the practice of notifying the wider community about any change of use application it becomes aware of that might place the residential character and amenity of Tusmore at risk.
Thank you. Your timing was perfect. Questions, please, from the floor. No? Oh, yes, Councillor Hubble.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Mr Martin, for coming in. I think there's a lot of us in this room that have a lot of problems with the new design code when it came through and it was proposed. There was a lot of objection had around the place. I'm just wondering whether that was something that, as residents, did you feel you were aware of this change to the planning design code when it was going through at the time? Do you recall that being something?
Vaguely. It's no secret that there is a catalyst for the current concern. I cannot say any more than that because another place will consider that. But it has exposed a lot of surprises with the zone policies. And what we've taken as sacred for so long may not be sacred. So we're drawing your attention to our concern. Although only a limited number of residents were aware of the risk initially, I can assure the Council that a much wider number of residents is now aware of the issue. And we believe that at this stage, all we can do is alert the Council generally to our concern and to request that if the zoning policies do break down and destroy the character of Tusmore, that something is done about it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cornick.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Mr Martin, for coming in and doing the work in the local community to alert them of this issue as well. My question is whether or not you and fellow residents might also individually raise this with the State Planning Minister or local member Jack Batty to raise with the State Planning Minister. I've always found that people power in the community and many voices is better than just one from council writing on the odd occasion. Is that something that you might consider as well? I'll
certainly consider it myself, but I think corporate power is also something that people take notice of, and that's why we're suggesting that the Burnside Council should be alive to this issue.
I think there are a lot of people in the community on a wide range of issues in relation to consultation have been affected by changes in the Planning Act, but that's not anything at the moment we can deal with, but except from putting in bids to get changes made. Otherwise, our staff have to comply with the expectations and the rules of the planning, and the guidelines of the Planning Act. Thank you. Are there any further questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, I'm just going to. Councillor Zing, would you mind just turning that microphone off? Now, before we move to the reports, it appears people are going, so maybe you can watch this at home, and you'll be able to see the debate later on this evening. I think you might find a television program to watch for a couple of hours beforehand, but the debate will take place later on this evening. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so therefore I'm not going to suggest as I was going to suggest. So I will move now through the reports, and I'll start with 11.1. I'm looking for someone to move it.
I'll move.
Thank you, Councillor Dawes. Seconded, Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The finance end of month, 11.2. Councillor Henschke's moved. Councillor Zing is seconding. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The Hewitt Avenue Reserve and Rose Park, 11.3. Councillor Henschke, you're moving it. Seconded by Councillor Cornish. I didn't have any. I've already got a mover and a seconder, Councillor Davey. Right. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I didn't do the numbers. Yes, I already said that at the beginning. All right, now,
So, yeah,
I need to do that vote again, all right? So those in favour of the Hewitt Avenue Reserve, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have the casting vote, and I'll be voting in support of the Hewitt Avenue. I attended the consultation. I was involved in all of the discussions with the people about the layout and so I am supporting it. So the vote has gone in favour.
We'll go to another round of budget stuff anyway, so it's not a big deal.
are we doing hands up? Yes. Yes, that's our rules now.
Those in favour? Councillor Zing,
Goes to another process, so.
Councillor Jennings, Councillor Hubel, Councillor Hallett, Councillor Cornish, Councillor Henschke and the Mayor. Those against? Councillor Jones, Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Davey, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Turnbull, and Councillor Dawes. So the motion was carried. Now, the Council Member Training Development Plan, 11.4, Councillor Davey.
I'm pulling that. Thank
You wish to withdraw it for discussion. The Freight Bypass, Councillor Cornish.
Thank you. I'm withdrawing that.
Yes. Brownhill Creek, Keswick Creek. I seek a mover. Councillor Cornish moving. Seconded by Councillor Dawes. All those in favour? Against? Carried. ERL Water Independent Review Request.
I'm withdrawing.
Councillor Cornish and Councillor Jones. Oh, sorry, Councillor Cornish is withdrawing. Sorry, CEO KPIs, mid-year review. Is there a mover? Councillor Cornish. And a seconder, Councillor Zing. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Mayor's Activity Report, 11.9. Seeker mover, Councillor Henschke. Seconded, Councillor Hallett. Councillor Hallett, can you use your microphone next time? Okay. And so all those in favour? Against? Carried. I do need to see everybody put their hand up one way or the other, please. A number of people missed that last one. 11.10, the Chief Executive Report. Councillor Davey, are you withdrawing it? Thank you. Right, we will go back to the beginning now, or not the beginning, we will go back to 11.4. Councillor Davey, the Council Member Training and Development Plan. I believe you have an alternative motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have an alternative motion.
And I do appreciate you letting me know in advance. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm not sure that I've sent it through to the staff, so I'll just... So I'll send it. So who should I send it to for... An amendment, okay. Just sending that through now. Oh, it is the same. That's the one that's up there. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll read it out so that everybody's aware of it. That Council endorses the Council Member Training and Professional Development Plan for 2024, incorporating further team building activities for Council members to assist in the development of positive, collaborative and constructive working relationships between Council members. 2, ensures that the team building activities are facilitated by a skilled provider with knowledge, skills and experience in metropolitan SA local government. 3, notes that the mandatory refresher training modules will be presented on the 7th of May 2024, 18th of June 2024, 2nd of July 2024 and the 30th of July this year. Notes that it is each individual council member's responsibility to complete the mandatory training modules prior to November this year, after which the provisions of Section 80A2B of the Local Government Act will apply. I thank the Matt Spearman and his staff in the administration for all the work they've undertaken to prepare this plan and report. As a councillor now, we're getting onerous levels. We have onerous requirements for our levels of training, but I guess that's the complexity of our life on council now. I thank the staff for their support in this. The reason for my amendment was that I think we need to have upfront a requirement for team building activities because we've started to do some team building, but I think we've got a way to go in terms of coalescing us together and working to coalesce us together as a very collaborative group. So we actually have a statutory responsibility under Section 51 or 59 as council members within our role, which is that as a member of the governing body of the council, we must ensure positive and constructive working relationships within the council, among our other responsibilities. So I think that gives us a good reason for us to press ahead with team building, to attend team building sessions and cooperate with those, and really get a good working council with respectful relationships developed. So I think this motion will help us support the staff with the training plan and some team building to achieve this goal for at least this year in this council. So hopefully you'll support that. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish, do you wish to speak now?
No, I reserve my right, but
Right.
happy to support it.
Then I'll move on to Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Davey. I have a question for the administration because I'm not an expert at team building in modern organisations, but it's quite complex and depends on what goal we are trying to achieve with the team building activities. And what I'm being not an expert in this at all, but there are all sorts of team building activities, for example, personality-based team building techniques, activity-based building techniques, skills, problem-solving, approaches. So it's a really tricky area in deciding what will this team building, what are we targeting with our team building exercise here? I was wondering if the administration had more clarity on what to deliver for us in this plan. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I think the team building activities will largely be shaped by the result of our workshop on February the 29th, February 29th, where the councillors will ideally come together and agree on the principles that they want to adhere to as a group, and also how they wish to hold each other to account as per whatever is agreed upon. But in broad terms, in the context of an elected body, for me, it's about how you work together cohesively and focusing on that really as a group. So, as I said, it will be iterative and obviously we'll seek feedback along the way, but it will be shaped by that 29th of February workshop, I believe.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. May I move a slight variation to number 2 that ensures that the team building activities are facilitated by the same skilled provider. Last year we had all different ones, all with different colour poster notes and all with different ideas. Be really good to have the same skilled provider so there's a continuity in what we're doing. Thank you.
Just get the CEO to respond to that before I ask Councillor Davey to go on.
I was just going to say, Madam Mayor, our intention is to use the same provider because I appreciate that. Just sharing.
Councillor Jones.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be a party pooper and speak against this motion. I don't think we should be spending money on ourselves because we can't be civil to each other. I think we should be spending rates to the benefit of our ratepayers, and we shouldn't be spending it on ourselves. And what are we giving up by spending this money on consultants? I don't think we should be doing it, and I won't be voting for the motion.
I have a blank screen. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Henschke, do you wish to speak now?
Oh, thank you. Yes, and thank you, Councillor Jones, for your views, because I feel the same. I strongly believe that we have plenty of activities already that we as elected members can participate in. For example, the co-design workshop with the community for that Hewitt Avenue Reserve, which a couple of elected members attended, but if more attended, I would guarantee you would have gone through a lovely exercise between each other and with the community on a co-design for a little pocket park, a little edible garden. And it was a beautiful thing that day. It was a really cold afternoon, really cold, but people turned up. People walked out of their businesses on Kensington Road, walked up the lane, met the administration, met the elected members, and we were out there in the cold for about 45 minutes. And even though it was so cold, we all really, huddled together thinking about how we're going to design and how we're going to solve this problem. So thank you, Councillor Turnbull.
Stop the meeting. Sorry,
my
you still need to stop because a point of order has been
Yep.
called. I'll just get some decision on that.
Just wanted to give an example.
Look, I know where you're headed, but I think if you could bring it back to and focus on what we're talking about now.
Apologies, I wanted to give an example of an activity so we could think about activities that would contribute to how we can work together constructively. So thank you all.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. I do understand, excuse my voice, I do understand where Councillor Jones is coming from. But I believe that Councillor David would also support this. This doesn't work unless we have close to a full attendance of councillors attending team building. Now, that was also inferred by what Councillor Hensky said. When we did have these team building exercises last year, the average was 8 or 9. There were 4 of us missing. And the team building was good last year. We do want it to be extended, but it can only work if we guarantee our attendance. Now, a question to the CEO, can this be mandatory or is that not allowed?
Through Madam Mayor, I don't really have the ability to mandate this. It's not mandated under the Act. But to take your point, if we are going to hold these sessions, the veracity of the session is enhanced substantially if everyone's in attendance, because then we have a clear understanding of where everyone's sitting and that they're also part of the activities and understand what we're trying to achieve.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. 2 things. Following on from Councillor Dawes, well, how does Council create the expectation for all Council members to attend these information briefing sessions, especially with regards to team building? If it's not mandatory, how do we create an expectation?
You were asked the question.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Whilst we can't mandate it, it may add weight if it's added to the motion that the expectation is that elected members would attend. You would have it in your motion, and that may add, as I said, some weight to the topic.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm actually going to support this motion. I think we have a responsibility when we nominated to become an elected member of council, the governing board of directors of the community. We made a commitment that we would do our utmost. Sometimes it's not actually convenient to go to a community workshop, but I do disagree with spending 86k on the small pocket garden. But back to the topic. I think our aim is to have cohesion amongst the team. And if that's assisting the CEO to run the organisation appropriately, then I think we should all commit to that goal, because that's what we're here for. I'll be supporting the motion.
Councillors.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question for the CEO and a follow-up to Councillor Jones. I think we already have a 6k or 7k training team building budget, so I presume resources would just come from there. There wouldn't be any additional resources needed.
Thank you for your patience, Madam Mayor. Just conferred with Mr Spearman. So last year, for example, we spent about $18,000 on councillor training. In the coming budget that will be coming to council for their consideration, we're looking at allocating $25,000. So an increase of $7,000, but I'd argue that that's quite a reasonable amount considering what we're trying to achieve.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy to support the Council Member Training and Development Plan and would like to thank Administration and Matt Spearman for their support and hard work in actually putting this forward and together. This is an opportunity for all councillors to support this, bother to turn up to training and make the effort to agree on collective standards. Goodness only knows the importance of trust, mutual respect and communication in a respectful way certainly needs a huge improvement on the actions of our first year working together. The people to benefit from this collaboration and working together are, after all our ratepayers who voted us in and who we are working for. I cannot imagine any councillor not prepared to enhance and support and improve on their social skills towards a better unified and collaborative council. We are, after all, working in a professional field and unfortunately, at times, need to be, in many cases, reminded what is and isn't acceptable behaviour. A degree of common sense and respect to others will go a long way. So please support this vital training which the administration have worked so hard to support all of us on. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a housekeeping question. I didn't quite get, on page 31, when it says the 7th of May, we have a council leadership workshop, but it's not available as a catch-up session. So what happens if you get hit by a bus or something happens and you can't attend to this leadership workshop session? Are you out of the council because you haven't attended the 4 mandatory? How can you catch it up if it's not available?
Through to me, I might get Mr Spearman just to elaborate on that one for us.
Thank you for the question. If someone is unable to attend and they have a very good reason for unable to attend and they have a very good reason for not attending, that would actually get considered by council. If council accepts that reason, no problem. If council doesn't accept that problem, then the reason, then that therefore then could mean that you haven't completed your requirements. Council will decide whether they accept it or not.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I just had a question for clarification. I didn't know we had a meeting on the 29th of, a briefing on the 29th of February. It hasn't appeared in my diary. Is that accurate or? Could we have clarification, please?
Where is it published?
Yes, because I haven't got. Is it the 19th? I've got a whole lot of budget ones, but I haven't got any training ones.
Yeah, certainly. Through Madam Mayor, I can confirm that I have mentioned the 29th in my CEO report, which talks about this workshop. So we're considering this report just prior to it. So yes, it will be considered at the meeting this evening, and obviously if we need to adjust that, we will. But at this stage, we have tried to have regard for your diaries, and Mr Spearman has made a tentative booking with the intended provider, but of course it is subject to tonight's meeting.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak apart from Councillor Cornish? Councillor Hallett.
I've got a a question of the mover, please. I actually don't have a problem with the recommendation that was put forward in the report by the administration. I'm wondering if, maybe that's because I don't fully understand the amendments. Is that saying that you want to have additional training? Does the changes to recommendation 1, will that deliver additional training?
I'm going to ask you to interpret that, CEO, and I'm sure that will clarify things.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hallett, can you turn your mic on?
My understanding is that this will entail additional training, but it's of a very specific nature. Is that a fair summary, Councillor Davey, of your intent?
I understand it's 2 or 3 team building sessions.
Yep, yes. Yep.
Councillor Dawes, do you have a question?
A question that the CEO mentioned about including mandatory in the motion and threw it out there, but I don't know whether that is up to Councillor Davey to agree to or whether we're not worrying about it. Can you just get the clarification as to what's happening?
Certainly, through you, Madam Mayor. If Council wishes to do that, there's 2 ways to do it. If you have the permission of the mover and the seconder to include the words, we can treat it as a variation. If they're not willing, you could treat it as an amendment.
Councillor Davey?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Can I just clarify that? I mean, I'm not talking about, I'm supporting the mandatory refresher training modules and all of that. I'm not saying, I mean, I would assume that we have to make a judgment on team building and the team building that's needed, and that's something we have to decide. Is that what is the administration's intent in terms of our February 29 meeting and the behavioural modules that we develop? It all follows that?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, my understanding is that the February 29th session will become the foundation piece, and then we'll determine the best way forward, but under the broad banner of team building. If I can just refer to what Councillor Dawes was alluding to, was perhaps the inclusion at point 2, maybe, that there's an encouragement that elected members make a commitment to attend. I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but...
Oh, so are you moving a variation?
Do you want to include that in there?
How would it read? Sorry, I've missed it. Add it in.
Oh, it's me, sorry.
Okay. No, it was a suggestion from the CEO, because my concern is that the team building exercises of last year, we didn't have a full attendance, average of 8 or 9. Did we want to include, or do we just want to encourage, a mandatory requirement for team building? If it's in the motion, rather than the CEO saying that, then we can do it. But I'm seeking the leave of the meeting to just debate that. I'll be there, but I'm hoping everybody else will be there. That's all.
Councillor Wilkins?
Let me just to clarify, if I may, through you to the CEO, last year's training was mandatory. It was in the Act. These sessions, if I read this correctly in point 7, are still mandatory under the LGA training standards? Can you clarify that, please?
Certainly. Through Madam Mayor, there's 2 components to this motion. The first component, which is to do with the mandatory refresher training prescribed under the Act, that's mandatory. You must attend.
That's point 3, isn't it?
The second, yes, that's correct. That's correct. The team building activities and the workshop on the 29th, it is not mandatory. It is not a mandatory requirement as per the Act, but I'd highly recommend that everyone attends.
But we're all professionals.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak apart from Councillor Cornish? Sorry? You were the seconder and I've got no one else on the screen. All right, so you don't wish to speak? Okay, I'll go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Would you like me to sum up? Thank you everyone for your contributions. Just to clarify, there are two aspects to this. There are the training and professional development opportunities that are presented to us. I mean, professional development is something you determine yourself. So there's a whole lot of aspects. The training, some of our training is mandatory, some isn't. It's based on briefings and training and other aspects as are determined by the administration and us from time to time. And then there's team building activities, which I think a lot of us feel, along with the staff, would benefit us in carrying out our duties. And I think this is outlined very well at paragraph 17, which is that team building activities can assist in building on and developing relations between council members and senior staff to build relationships based on trust and mutual respect, contribute to a positive and ethical culture within the governing body, encourage and facilitate collaboration with each other, work towards consensus as members of the governing body for the benefit of the community, which is why we're all here, manage alternative views within the council without damaging relationships, champion and communicate the council's vision and strategic plans as a cohesive team, respect the diversity of skills and experiences on councils, and communicate and uphold the decisions of council in a respectful way, even if their own positions are not adopted. So it's just a really rounded way of outlining how we can develop further as a cohesive body, as has already been said, we're the governing body of the City of Burnside. We need to work collaboratively with each other and with our administrative staff who work very hard as well. And we don't want to be wasting energy. We want to, it's actually an investment in harvesting all this energy. It's you know, it might cost $5,000 or $6,000 or whatever. It's an investment. So hopefully this is clearly outlined. A lot of work's gone into it. We'll be getting lots of dates and we'll make the final decisions on the 29th of February at a workshop where we'll have an opportunity to input into this as the elected body. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Those in favour? Against? Carried. Division's been called, so all those who voted in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Zing. Davey. I'll just hold up for a bit longer, okay. Jennings. Dawes. Turnbull. Harvey. Cornish. And Henschke. Those, keep your hands up if you wouldn't mind. Oh no, we do it the other way now, don't we? We ask you to put your hands up if you voted against. I've forgotten how we're doing it now.
I am actually voting for. Could you include me on?
Oh, sorry, did we miss you? I miss you.
So ask them to put their
Okay.
hands up if they're for.
Okay.
And leave them up.
Thank you. That's a good start. Councillor, I just need to fit in Wilkins first. And they were supposed to keep their hands up.
Yep.
That's what I thought originally. Okay, you need to keep your hands up, those who voted in favour. And then I would have picked you up as a correction then, right? Now, against were Councillor Jones. No, don't put your hand up. Councillor Jones, Hubel and Hallett were against. All right, thank you. The motion was carried. Now we move to the Greater Adelaide Freight Bypass. Councillor Court.
Thank you, Worship. The CEO sent around a slight amendment to this earlier today to add on asking the Local Government Association to look at supporting this as well. I think it's a very good idea, and especially given the feedback that the CEO received from the CEO of the LGA, it might receive a positive response from the rest of the Local Government Association, which is a much bigger bat than just the City of Burnside continually trying to address this issue of of trucks on Portrush and Glen Osmond Road. So I commit the motion to you all, and I hope you support it with the addition. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins, do you wish to speak now?
Yes,
As a
I do
seconder?
actually. I'll second it because I do agree with it. Always have since it was first mooted about X number of years ago. But you've left out one important person, and I would request that you add in the federal member for Sturt, James Stephens, as well. He should be on that list. I don't see his name there.
I'm happy to accept that as variation.
Thank you.
Can I add another one to that? Because the council, the District Council of Mid-Murray are particularly impacted by this because Truro, of course, and the deviation from Murray Bridge goes right through, and they are desperate to get, they really do want this deviation to go ahead. I do think out of courtesy we should send the results of the motion tonight to the Mayor of Mid-Murray so that she is aware that we are lobbying in support of them. I have had conversations with her in the past. She attended the meeting, I think you did too, Councillor Wilkins, at the church where the last meeting took place. And I know that Jack Batty has been inundated with support, both before his election and after, at all of his corner stores.
I'm happy to include the Mayor of Mid-Murray Council.
Yeah, Simone Bailey, I think it is.
Since we've got it open, could I also add Mr. Stephen Marshall, member for Nord, who obviously it goes through as well. So I've just been advised that James Stephens spoke to a councillor and suggested that recently too. So let's go for gold.
I agree the more, and I really do appreciate the support to, well, hopefully. I think it's a really important issue for the LGA, for us to take up with the LGA and at federal level as well. I don't have anyone on the screen here. Councillor Henschke.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to also say that, in item A there, that we write about the continuing concerns about the safety of all road users. There is also a big impact on the amenity of people who live adjacent to that corridor, smell, noise, and there are childcare centres there, so does affect, there are secondary impacts like that, which are not acceptable. And I'm wondering if the administration can also weave that aspect in, please.
I think the issue of air and noise pollution are two major issues that the freight bypass meetings that have taken place already have highlighted, with scientists coming and talking about the pollution levels.
Thank you.
So I never be feared about that inclusion. Okay. Councillor Dawes.
I don't know if Councillor Wilkins seconded that motion or not. She did? You did, good, because it's not actually on the screen at the moment. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to speak? I have a blank screen at the moment. Right. Happy for me to put the motion? All right. Then all those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you so much. Really good motion. It really impacts on an awful lot of people. Okay, next one is the Era Water Independent Review. Councillor Cornish again.
Madam Mayor, just before you start, Madam Mayor, I'll just...
No, we've already voted on that.
Madam Mayor, just before we go to the item, I just need to declare a conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room due to the fact that I'm a board member of Era Water.
Of course. Right, Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm offering just a slight amendment to the motion. It is exactly what the officer's recommendation was, but it's adding another line to provide the City of Walkerville, or asking the CEO to write to the City of Walkerville. They do have it. To write to the CEO to write to the City of Walkerville and provide a copy of the Tonkin report, which the City of Burnside actually did.
They have already received a copy.
They've already got one?
They've already got a copy.
But, yeah, well, can we still send it to them as a consolation prize?
You can, but I can assure you they already have it.
Well, I'm happy to provide it to them again. You can. Well, it might be new well, they are new councillors.
They have discussed it at their meeting and at their audit committee and at the council meeting, so I am aware of that.
Okay. Well, maybe people might want to vote this down then, if you don't want to provide them more information. But I'm more than happy to send them a copy that we have sent them a copy of a report that we did. To look into this sort of issue. So that's the only amendment I've got from the original officer's recommendation, and I hope you support it.
Councillor Davey, you wish to second it?
Thank
you.
you,
Wish
Mayor.
to speak?
Yes. And to acknowledge all that Councillor Cornish has said, and to just send a copy of the 2019 Tonkin Consulting Era Water Independent Review Report to make sure that the town of Walkerville does have it and is able for the new council to familiarise, and the new staff. I think they've had a whole raft of new staff start there, so that they can familiarise themselves with the work, which was quite an investment, and quite an amount of money was invested in that not very long ago, and hopefully that will put their mind to rest about some of the concerns they have. So hopefully you'll support this. Thanks.
Councillor Jones.
Colleagues, I don't think we're being very neighbourly to our partner council. Look, I was the person who proposed that we have the Tonkin report against the gritted teeth opposition of a lot of people. And to be honest, it was a pretty scanty report. We didn't get everything in it that we wanted. There was no cooperation from Era Water in providing information to Tonkin on doing their report, and to be honest, it left more questions unanswered than answered. So I think these poor people from Walkerville, who were all pretty much all newly elected, coming in and saying, "Oh my golly, what on earth have we got into?" Particularly badly for Walkerville, because their share, $5 million of debt for us is painful, but $5 million of debt, which is their share of the Era Water for Walkerville, is extraordinarily painful, crippling even. So, look, I understand their concerns, and I think that the right thing for us to do is not to just shut it down, but is to say, yeah, look, when I joined this council, I had these concerns, and I still have concerns. And when we joined, we were told that not only would there be all these environmental benefits, but we'd actually be able to buy water more cheaply than we could buy from SA Water. And what's happened is actually the water we're buying from Era Water is 2 or 3 times more expensive than we could be buying from SA Water. And the environmental benefits are changing. Certainly, this thing about Spencer Gulf water quality has been invented years after the fact. And we keep having to contribute capital. So I think there is a case and I have asked this repeatedly, to spell out what is the cost of leaving, and nobody will do it on the board or in the staff. And I think that's what we need to know, so that we can actually take an informed decision. So I'm going to oppose this motion, And I think if it fails, and if I'm allowed to, I'll move that we will provide an independent, we will support Walkerville for an independent report, and I hope you'll support this.
Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, I have a question. What's the status of the City of Norwood, Payneham and St Peters in this matter? I seem to think that they have refused this request.
I'll consult with
And then I have
our
another
Director of Governance. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, that is correct. Norwood last night have moved not to do the independent review.
They had discussed this in confidence last night. Councillor Dawes? Sorry, Councillor Dawes?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, first of all, I was disappointed that Walkerville did not send a representative tonight. If they want to win our hearts, they need to be here. You know, I thought that was disappointing. But I did note that this all comes from the Audit Committee of Walkerville. It doesn't come from the council, and their statement is it's the most substantial risk to the town of Walkerville. So that's why they've raised it. We have got a good chair and general manager of Irrawater. I will admit that from where we were before. But the Achilles heel still is the sales. And I just read a report 2 days ago from their recent meeting, and promising leads have again been failures. I don't know how many times I've read that. And I thought, oh dear me, here we go down to the same trail again. So I am with Councillor Jones here. I'd like to be informed. I really would. I think there are still some unanswered questions, and I believe the report would even assist the current board of Irrawater, because it has been, when was Tonkin, was it 3 or 4 years ago? 2019. 4 years ago. So I think another look, another independent review would not go astray, and then we could make our own call. I'm not surprised that Norwood, Payneham and St Peters has decided no, they won't go ahead, because they've been a full supporter of Irrawater right through. But look, I'd like to support Walkerville on this one, and let's see where it goes.
I just want to declare that I did have a conversation with the Mayor of Walkerville towards the end of last year, who did approach me about the likelihood of this council debating such a question. And I said that she would have to go ahead and do that. It would be up to this council to make that decision, but certainly it would be something that we would consider. Because she did tell me that their audit committee were particularly concerned about the ongoing costs of maintaining, and they're constantly being required to put more and more money in, and that is incredibly expensive for them, particularly in light of the little advantage they actually have out of the scheme. Now, you're absolutely right. They have had they've had a new mayor, new CEO, and all their elected members are different from when we got into this scheme 10 years ago. So their audit committee raised the issue, their new CEO raised the issue about their concerns, the financial implications, hence the writing of the letter to both councils. And that direction that says from the audit committee is exactly what I was told, that the audit committee, their audit committee had shown concerns and was writing on behalf of the council, or wanted to write to us to seek support, both councils, to seek support or for a new review. They did receive a copy of the Tonkin report because I did send it to them. It was a public report, it wasn't confidential. So I did send it to her once she became the new mayor, so that she was aware. And then, of course, since then they've had a new CEO, and who had nothing to do with this project in the beginning. So they've had quite a massive change in personnel, hence, and of course the audit committee is looking at the books and saying, well, how much more money are we likely to put in? Is this economically sustainable apart from the environmental sustainability? Hence the question. So I just wanted to explain that, and now Councillor Day.
Thank you. I seem to recall that for about 4 or 5 years, up until last year, Walkerville Council assiduously drove the establishment and running of Era Water. Is that not correct?
They did.
Could someone
It was
please
Kiki
confirm that?
Magro was the original instigator, and she's the one who actually came and talked to us and said
Several times, yes.
a number of times. And Councillor Wilkins, you were
correct.
on council at the time, so was Councillor Cornish, and Councillor Davey, you were as well.
So my question, sorry,
that CEO has been gone now from that
but there's
council
been a
for
sudden
18 months.
vote about face,
Yep.
and so they probably need to look at all their records and check all of their.
No, they're trying to move forward, and Kiki has
Yes.
not been the CEO there for over 18 months. So they've had an acting CEO.
But that means
and
working
they've got a
with
new
the other
CEO.
constituent councils in the subsidiary.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think they seem to understand that responsibility.
Oh, no, they fully understand that it's a tripartite agreement, definitely. Okay, Councillor Henschke. Sorry, can you turn your mic off, please, Councillor Davis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say that, yes, I support the idea of an independent review because the project has certainly morphed into it's had strategic changes in it, and so it's not the same thing that we really started off with 10 years ago. So for due diligence, it's important at this point to just check where we're heading with it and to see what benefits have been realised for the investment to date, etc. It is important because we're investing, going forward, the total investment costs for the ratepayers of the City of Burnside are significant, and so this investment is worthwhile, I believe.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got a question, 2 questions. Do we pay Era Water for the water that we use? And if we do we pay more for that water than we would pay SA Water?
The answer is yes, and you've also already heard Councillor Jones make that statement. And our Director of Governance, does he have anything to add? Mr. Spearman?
Through the Mayor, we'll provide it may not help right now, but it will provide the cost tomorrow. My understanding was it was benchmarked against SA Water prices. So I don't think it was 3 times the price, for example. So, yeah, I'll provide that information tomorrow.
The issue is it's more, put it that way. Did you have another question? Sorry. So if you're commenting, remember you are debating, all right?
Oh, well, it was my turn. Sorry, I had a question. We seem to have this great debate now about, or interest in having another review. Could we please establish what the cost of a review would be? Perhaps what the Tonkin review cost 5 years ago and what a review would cost us now, thanks. Because perhaps we could take it out of the fund for the Pocket Park in Rose Park.
I don't think that comment was necessary at all.
Through the Mayor, the estimated cost provided to us by the town of Walkerville is $30,000. If council does vote this one down and put up an alternate motion to support this motion, you'll need to consider whether you're wanting to pay the $10,000, but then noting that Norwood's not part of it. Do you want to go 50% and pay $15,000? But you may want to cap whatever the cost is in your motion.
Now, Councillor Hallett.
I wanted to support Councillor Harvey Jones, what he had to say in regard to, I think that we should be conducting a review. We need to in order to make a sensible judgment, we need to know how much it would cost to get out of it, and weigh that up with the cost of keeping it going.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. the Mayor talked about councillors who were in on this when it began, but like Walkerville, who have got new councillors and a new Mayor, new CEO, most of us weren't here when it began too. So that the last report was 4 years ago. I think we need to know what's happening. Unfortunately, we were locked into this scheme. It's, I remember the first time I heard about it, I said there was a hole in the bucket, and I stand by it. There still is a hole in the bucket, and it keeps leaking out. And I think 10,000, which would be our share, would be very wisely spent to find out where we're going, how we're going, and if we're going. So yes, I will vote I will not vote for that one.
Councillor Will.
Yes, I am actually... Have I spoken? No. Don't think I have. Right. I've actually been, like some other people on this council, been here from the word go since this was first mooted and first established. I've walked over it several times and I firmly believe in it, that it is the right thing to do. I won't support not funding. I will support a figure of 10K and cap it at that. I too think it should come out of 86K for a pocket park, pocket garden. We can't keep doing this, but I see the benefit in following up on the 19 Tonkin and the BRM 2020. Let's see, we're 4 years down the track. Technology is consistently changing. I was around with a certain minister when the first underground, or putting water into an aquifer, it was done at Salisbury in the wetlands way back in the first years of the Howard government. So I firmly believe we've done the right thing. We need to just stop, take an inventory, and I would support that action and cap it at 10K. That's how I feel about this. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I seem to remember that our audit committee reviewed our membership of and commitment to Era Water in the last 12 months.
They regularly have an update at the end of each audit committee. They did ask a number of questions, but they didn't do a review of it. No formal review. Correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Jones. Nothing formal, but they did raise their concerns about its ongoing costs. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I'll go back to Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. First out, I just want to point out the timing of the letter being November, yet their council actually moved the motion in May. So it's really an urgent thing for the town of Walkerville, waiting such a long period of time. And obviously that had to come from the audit committee first. And we now know that the City of Norwood, Payneham, St Peters has chosen not to participate in that. So $10,000 would have to come up with 50% of the cost of this report, not a third. So we'll be in for a bit more. I'm okay for you, if you choose to vote it down, you can vote it down and vote to do it. I'll probably support it like the last one, if that's the way the committee was go. But I actually think that now we've got pretty full water. The first couple of years, we didn't really have much water actually in the aquifer to actually sell. You can't exactly go knocking on doors going, hey, do you want to buy some water? Oh, but we won't have it for 4 years. You can't exactly do that. But now it's bursting at the seams with water down there. So we've actually got some water that we can actually go and sell. So I don't know, personal preference, I think maybe in a year or two, a review might be a good idea to actually see what actually happens with the water that we've actually got. And plus we've had a few wet years where people probably don't need the water as much. And when the drought comes, which, climatologists say that apparently it should be coming, today is a much nicer example of it might be coming, but then we might be able to actually sell some out of it. So, and it is a long-term project, 70-year project. It's supposed to take us through the droughts, and you know, and in the wet seasons we fill it back up. So we've now got it full. I just don't know if the timing's but that's just me. If you guys vote it down and want to go and do a review, I'm happy to probably support it that way too. So I will be voting for this, but if it doesn't get up, I'll vote for the other.
Right, all those in favour of the motion as it stands, or it's not supporting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look, it puts me in a very difficult position, and I'll state that categorically. I do understand, because I have had conversations with the Mayor about their concerns and that have come through their audit committee. So I am going to vote this down, and we'll reopen the debate with an alternative motion. Partly because of what you said, Councillor Cornish. Now, I seek a mover of the original motion, I believe.
Well, not the original, because the
No. Sorry, no. The one that was in the papers, in the documents. So it's 11.7. Unless you wish to make more change, someone wishes to make another change. Councillor Jones, you wish to?
Shall I have a go?
Yes. Take out the second part.
I'd take it from part 3 of what Walkerville's motion. So I'm thinking along the lines of that council supports the town of Walkerville's request to engage an independent external consultant to undertake a comprehensive review of... Sorry, because this is coming... I'm going to take straight out from the...
Just trying to type
Yeah, sorry. How far have you got?
External consultant.
In the first quarter... Well, we're probably... Yeah. In the first half of the 2023-24 financial year.
That's passed.
Sorry. Sorry, of the, first half of the 2004 calendar year.
2024 calendar year.
Yeah, because, we can't,
No.
we can't, because that's already gone, hasn't it? Sorry. Calendar year, to undertake a comprehensive review of Irra Water. The feasibility of its long-term financial sustainability. I'm going to, comma, alternative benefits of membership. Make that alternative non-financial benefits of membership. So what I'm trying to get here is essentially there is an additional cost, but there may be an environmental benefit, and we're essentially saying we are paying this much for this environmental benefit. Membership and any risks associated with both the continuation and or cessation of the subsidiary. Supports Council agrees to fund this review to contribute agrees to contribute to the funding of this review
to the maximum of.
to this review to the value of, well, if Norwood are not going to join, I think realistically we're going to pay half. Yes. So $15,000. I hate to tell you, Di, that's capital, not operating.
Take the S off Walkerville.
Still got to go through the budget.
Oh, no, put an apostrophe before the S of Walkerville.
Walkerville's, yeah. Should we go with that? Okay. Well, I'll briefly speak. I mean, this obviously came up in last time's budget, and I've taken a long interest in Era Water, and through my membership of the Audit Committee for a number of years, I've been able to probe Era Water quite extensively. Blimey, am I done already? I haven't been speaking for 3 minutes, surely. Oh, what, as we design the motion? Yes. Get out of here.
This counts too.
Yeah.
I'm happy to second it, you can sum up.
Have I got another minute? Was that my first reminder?
That was your final.
Get out of here.
10 seconds.
All right, well, okay.
I suggest you keep your comments until the end, and Councillor Cornish, you are going to second. Do you wish
I
to speak?
will second your motion. I thank you. I said that I'd support it. I will support it. There are some concerns for me that I've previously raised, a few others that have just come to mind in terms of I do feel sorry for the staff at Era Water. You know, they are under the pump. They feel like they've been under the pump specifically from this council for a number of years, and this might just... Yeah, they have changed, but hopefully they don't feel too bad about this review. It's nothing to do with them. It's more of a cursory overview of what we need to do, which I presume is what Councillor Jones is going to say when he sums up.
I just want to reiterate what you're saying, that this has got nothing, this is no reflection at all on the current running of Era Water. And I think it's important that I state that it is really about looking at the requests that we've received from Walkerville and then moving forward and moving on. No, I was not trying to convince you. I was not convincing you. I was just clarifying the point of trust in the current staff of Era Water. Now, Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, councillors. Yeah, this is very good. What I'll be looking for when they do this is a economic kind of analysis, you know, not just financial. So as Councillor Jones has put in there, alternative non-financial benefits. So when you do an economic analysis, you know, there might be, we might find that, oh, there were 2 jobs created by this project, or 3 or 4. And then all these other shadow benefits and maybe shadow costs. So it's actually a really interesting, it's very interesting and good to know what, you know, what data we get from this, so that we can make objective decisions going forward. So there might be some really great benefits that we just didn't really think about, like jobs. Thank you.
Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't be supporting this. I think we are essentially putting the viability of Era Water under scrutiny again, and that's, of course, our role to do that. We have had so many reviews and so much scrutiny, which has resulted in a lot of change. We've had significant upskilling of the management and the staff at Era Water. They've been through a very difficult time, as Councillor Cornish alluded to, with the drought. And I think we have apparently got a very capable team on board. I think we need the right climatic conditions to increase our sales and marketing activities. I think all of that's in hand. I think we just need to be very careful that we're not undermining the integrity of the organisation under the auspices of doing another audit, or, I mean, I think they've been audited to death and reviewed to death myself. I think that's probably the rationale at Norden, Payneham and St Peters, but I'm not privy to their deliberations. I think we just have to be really careful that we support the staff through this if it gets up. But I think we should be doing, we should be getting the input from our staff, because we're just going off cock-headed doing this. We haven't heard anything from our member on the board or any of the staff who are dealing with Era Water. I think there's lots of assumptions being made around the table tonight, and I don't think they're necessarily good ones. Thanks.
I haven't anyone on the screen. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, I will go back to Councillor Jones.
Look, as I was beginning to say previously, when we considered this as part of the last budget, I thought it was finely balanced whether to put the extra $1 million in. I took the view at the last time that the $1 million and the additional cost from the water security charge, we were better off than withdrawing and taking our share of interest and $5 million of debt, basically, when you weigh in the environmental benefit. Now, I've had the benefit of extensively scrutinising this that possibly other people haven't had, so I think an independent review would be valuable. Certainly Walkerville think it would be valuable. Look, there are problems with this scheme. I mean, Councillor Cornish is right. The aquifer is full and it's got 800,000 litres in it. Megalitres. But that is enough to irrigate the 3 councils for 4 years. And that assumes that we don't sell anything to external parties. So remembering how long the last drought went on for, that is not a great reserve. And most of the water we put in the winter, we take out over summer. So let's not be kidding ourselves that we've built up this enormous reserve of water that when the next drought comes along, we're going to be laughing and there's going to be endless buckets of water to be irrigating our reserves. It's just not true. And if this thing's got to be financially viable, it's got to sell to other people. So essentially we're in the problem that I don't think there is enough water. And it's kind of funny, given that this thing was set up in the middle of a millennium drought, that people then say, oh, well, the problem with this scheme is it doesn't rain in Adelaide. Well, hello, what did you set it up for? I mean, this is just crazy. They do this financial modelling and they say, well, schemes never work perfectly from day one. It's like, well, you didn't know that? You didn't financially model it? It just beggars belief, some of the things that went on in the scheme, which I think is why we need an independent review, and I'm hoping that the kind of vote will be repeated and we'll pass this motion.
All those in favour? All those against? Division's been called. Councillor, those in favour, put your hand up, please. Councillor Zing, Wilkins, Jennings, Jones, Hubel, Dawes, Turnbull, Hallett, Harvey, Cornish and Henschke. Against, Councillor Davey. Sorry? Yeah, it's okay. That was easier because there was only one person to remember. And I didn't leave Councillor Wilkins out this time, did I, Councillor Wilkins? Right, thank you very much. Would you like to invite the CEO back in? He's already been invited back in. And you might wish to see what was agreed to And we will, while the CEO is saying that, we will then now move to 11:10, Chief Executive Report, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I just had a couple of questions which I wasn't able to send through before the meeting. Firstly, I note the behavioural support policy on the 29th of February. Thank you to the CEO for highlighting that. In terms of human resources, the Historical and Cultural Officer, is that a new person? Did the incumbent leave us, Michelle, or are we getting extra staff in the Historical and Cultural Officer position? Because it's got to be recruited in January, a part-time temporary contract.
Yep. Through Madam Mayor, I'll get Mr Spearman just to clarify that one.
Through the Mayor, for that role, that's actually a parental return to work situation. So it's to top up, because someone's returning, Michelle's returning back part-time. So it's just to top up the remaining element.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. And the other question, if I may, was about strategic plans at dot point on page 98. The Burnside 2030 Strategic Community Plan went out for consultation, closing in December, and I just wondered when that's being brought back to us. Will we be workshopping that, or will that come back as a report to council, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I refer that to Mr Cant, I think.
Through your worship, I believe it's being returned to council in April or May, and I'm just quickly checking the forward agenda, and there'll likely be a briefing session prior to it returning to council.
Sorry, I didn't know that.
Madam Mayor, just to restate that, it'll be coming back to council in April or May, but there will be a briefing session held for councillors before it comes formally to council.
Now, Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Just page 101, I had a question about the traffic management for Beulah Park and Kensington Park. Extends over to 102, just in terms of the traffic study that's proposed for Kensington Park Ward. Its target date is April 2024, but the motion says February 2024. Just want to confirm that.
Madam Mayor, can we just get a second before I go any further?
Are you happy to second it? And then
Yeah, happy to second it. Yeah.
Zing has seconded, so we can now
Thank
go
you
to
for
his
that.
answer.
Now, that was to do with the traffic management study?
Yeah, for Beulah Park.
I'll refer that to Mr Cant.
Through your worship, apologies, I actually thought there was commentary within that explaining that. I've sent an email to both ward councillors, apologies if you missed it. Due to the workload of the consultant prior to Christmas, they were unable to do it. So we've had to wait for the school period to resume again in February, hence why we couldn't do the study and then return a report in time. So the rescheduled date is going to be April.
Are there any, Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just concerned about, on page 96, for example, Era Water, there are no areas of concern to report. Future updates will include the external water sales. It's not quite enough information. We probably wouldn't have gone to the extent of asking for a $15,000 review if we were getting a little bit more information each time. So I'm just wondering if they could be fleshed out, is the word, for all those, Highbury, East Waste, etc.
Through Madam Mayor, this summary is designed to be a snapshot at a high level, and it's not designed to have all the detail. But what we can start doing is provide minutes of meetings, because I'm concerned that if I go much further than that, I then start getting into operational matters. I'll take that on board, Madam Mayor, and I'll talk to the team if there are any additional bits of information we can provide, perhaps that might give you a bit more insight. So I will take that on board to have a look at.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was prompted to ask, traffic management study, Beulah Park and Kensington Park, why don't I see Eastwood in that line as well? Because we are scheduled to have a traffic management study as well, I believe, this year.
Through Madam Mayor, I think you'll find it's because that's just reporting on the specific council resolution made at that time, but I'll refer to Mr Can, just to clarify.
Because it's urgent.
Through Your Worship, that's referring to a resolution, I believe, put up by Councillor Zing prior to Christmas about a specific matter at a corner of the school there. That's not referring to the precinct-wide studies that you're referring to, which will certainly happen this calendar year.
Okay. Thank you. Can I also make a comment on the recent storm event highlighted on page 98? And I just want to give a positive review of the staff who, actually 3 staff, who came to Elizabeth Street, Eastwood, and whilst I was away, because of all people to have a council tree fall on their front garden, it was me. Fortunately, my garden hasn't been demolished. Gates were not affected. A really old cyclone wire fence held the trunk of the tree up off the garden. They are very good fences. They made strong steel in those days. But also, these 3 staff who actually attended on the Friday when I finally came home were 3 very strong people. Excellent. I have to commend them for the work that they did. They were all trained. The team leader was fantastic. And the 2 young staff who worked with him, I was the dog's body who kept filling up my green bin and getting things ready for the chipper. So we made short work over about 3 or 4 hours of 2 street trees. The storm was so intense that it took out a tree that has been there long before I came to Eastwood. That's how strong the gusts were. And it also severed the roots of the second tree, so much so that it was then unstable. So it's gone, and I'm just giving the staff advance notice that I want to be involved in the replacement of said trees. Thank you.
I think Mr Inat also mentioned the tree that came down in Brock Reserve. That was absolutely enormous, completely uprooted. And I just want to add the thanks to the staff, because I did get thanked by a number of residents about how effective and how quick people were, that our council staff were, to respond to the many, many branches that were down in streets, on roads, and particularly in Hazelwood Park and Kensington Gardens, where trees were particularly decimated by those strong winds. So just take this opportunity to thank the staff while I have the opportunity.
And I just have a further comment, if
yes,
I may.
Councillor.
2 big trees in Vic Park, huge also. So if you're going through Victoria Park, they're still there. But my other comment I wanted to ask was the team member arboriculture, council approved position for July 2024. That position should be now. These guys are worked to the bone. Thank you. I'm advising that they should be hunting down that extra person with qualifications now, not leaving it to mid-year.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would love to recruit them right now, except we had an extensive debate at budget time and we determined we couldn't afford to do it now. But I do appreciate your support with that one. But we'll do our homework so they start as early as they can in 1 July.
Right. If there's no one else, do you wish to speak again? No, I've forgotten. Councillor Davey? Right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Microphone. I'm just asking for guidance in relation to whether you want to have a 10-minute break now and resume for the two motions on notice, or carry on. Indication, please. Those who wish to take a break, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 want a break. Here we go again. Look, I think we should, let's compromise and do an 8-minute break. An 8-minute break. Yes, I know, we have that as well. Yeah. Resuming at 9:02. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, it was said of my late grandfather that he was careful, which was a polite way of saying he didn't like spending money. And I may have inherited some of his aversion, which is why I brought this motion. Because I cannot for the life of me see why we would want to spend $30,000 on a consultant to update our dog and cat management plan when we can produce a cheap and cheerful version, which by happenstance the council staff have done over the Christmas break. They've produced an updated plan that meets all the requirements. And in my view, let's not spend $30,000. Let's just use that plan to go out to consultation. And I think there's an even more pressing reason to do this, is that we are sitting on tenterhooks waiting for the dog and cat people to determine what the statewide policy for dogs and cats is going to be. And so I don't feel that we should be in the vanguard of coming up with a report that may be obsolete the moment it's produced because the Dog and Cat Board finally come up with their statewide approach. So my view is, let's not spend the money, let's wait and see, let's meet our legislated requirements, which is to come up with an update of our 2020 plan, which effectively the staff have done for us. Let's go out to consultation and let's say we've ticked the box, and then we'll wait for the Dog and Cat Management Board to come up with their proposal. And let's be honest, Burnside is pretty well represented on that body. Former Mayor Parkin, I think, is the chair. Former Councillor Lemon is on it, or has been on it. And Dr. Ropeman on staff has been on it. So we've had a significant level of influence over this board, far more than most councils would have. So it's going in directions that are probably compatible with our thinking. So that's just where I'm going, and I hope you'll support the motion.
Councillor Henschke, you wishing to second?
Yep, thank you.
Do you wish to speak?
No, thanks.
Right. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank Councillor Jones for his motion, with which I fully agree, and I have an amendment to it, which I'll put to you. I did circulate it late this afternoon, but many would probably not have had an opportunity to have a read. That's gone through to the staff, and it reads that it's part 1 of Councillor Jones, and then part 2 is on page 11 of the draft Dog and Cat Management Plan 2024, and I would add to 2029. After the text, the council does not have a bylaw concerning the management of cats, add the wording, however, the council can commence the process of adopting a bylaw at any time. 3, adopts the amended draft Dog and Cat Management Plan 2024-2029 for public consultation, and that a copy be forwarded to the Dog and Cat Management Board for comment. And 4, receives a report by the end of March 2024. Have you got that to put up on the... here it is. Receives a report by the end of March 2024 in relation to the process and costs of pursuing a cat bylaw and the cat management options that could be considered. So my reason for this is to thank Councillor Jones for following this up. I agree that we didn't need to spend $30,000. The staff have done a fantastic job in drafting up this new draft for community consultation. My only concern is that there needs to be greater emphasis on cat management so that we promote this and support our community with it and for the welfare of cats. Sorry, that was just my walking stick, my prop. We invest heavily in dog management, and we have a bylaw for dog management and all the controls that are necessary for that, and support for our community. But traditionally, the management of cats has fallen behind. It's silent. Everyone is aware how important cats are as valued family pets, and the ones that aren't valued, which are problematic. And increasingly, most other councils, metropolitan and rural, have introduced a cat management bylaw. And these include Campbelltown, which is just established and commenced on the 1st of January, the Adelaide Hills, Mitcham, Adelaide City Council. We're surrounded by councils and all rural, Eyre Peninsula, York Peninsula, the Kangaroo Island, all have cat bylaws. And we're about one of the last 2 or 3 councils that don't have a cat bylaw. I think with Unley and there's one other one, Prospect, I think. So I think while Councillor Jones has acknowledged we don't know what's happening with the Dog and Cat Management Board or what government's policy is on cat management, we keep hearing that there's a report that's going to be acted on, but we don't know what it is. So I think we should just make provision in our draft to go out for public comment that we actually make provision for a cat bylaw and then receive a report from the staff in the first quarter on the implications of this. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
I seek a seconder for the amendment. Councillor Wilkins.
I'm happy to support that. Thank you.
You wish to speak now?
No.
Does anyone wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, just a question, Mayor. If I speak now to the amendment, I'm just trying to think of the rules. Can I speak to the motion later? Correct? Because I know it's a change that Councillor Huber was loving, but is that right? Oh, I'm thinking about that. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got a question. If I were to support the amendment, would that mean that we would be able to trap cats that are on council reserves or parks and deal with them?
3 Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Heinrich.
Thank you. Through the chair, the answer to that question would be spelled out in the report, but in advance answer is no, that the act of trapping will need legislative change.
Sorry, what was that, the last bit?
Through the Mayor, in order to trap cats, the act will need to be changed by the Minister, and a bylaw can't override that.
Okay.
Have you got another question? No, I've got it. Okay, you've lost it now. Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Just speaking to the amendment, I've got 1 minute's time. I am very happy with the inclusion of item number 2 of the amendment. Item number 4 of the amendment, I don't think it's the right time for that at the moment. I do want to see and wait a little bit longer about what the Dog and Cat Management Board is going to do holistically. I don't want us going down the path of spending money, which, you know, Councillor Jones has articulated we're very short of, and then finding out that the Dog and Cat Management Board is doing this holistic thing that we have to remove 50% of all the inclusions in a bylaw that we've just gone and spent a fortune putting in. So happy to include that in the report, that it's our option to have a bylaw in the future, but I don't think we should get a report and entertain the idea at this point in time.
Councillor Jones.
This is a question which kind of is following on from Councillor Cornish, is how much would it cost to do number 4, or is this something that can be done with internal council resources? Because if we have to spend $15,000 on a consultant, we've kind of negated the purpose of my motion.
Through Madam Mayor, I've just confirmed with Mr. Heinrich that we have the resources to do this in-house.
I missed that, sorry.
In-house.
In-house.
Yeah, the resources to be done in-house. Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I want to talk to the amendment now. If I can just try. Look, I support Councillor Cornish here. I remember in my first 4 years, we never wanted to discuss a cat bylaw because we just didn't know. There were two sides to the story. We didn't know which way to go. We wanted some advice, some guidance from the Dog and Cat Management Board, and it wasn't coming, and it still hasn't come. So the timing's not quite right there. So I'm happy to support number 2, and perhaps that could be a variation to Councillor Jones's motion. But yeah, I think number 4 is too early at this stage.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, my primary point was brought up by Councillor Jones, in that my feeling is that the spirit of this motion was to not be spending money on this topic, and I think his speaking to it was very clear that it was about the money. So I would argue that an amendment talking about spending money is a bit contrary, but that's just a comment from my perspective. Look, I can't vote for this amendment because point 4 I strongly disagree with. I think our best course of action is to wait and see what the state government says and then respond to that. On all matters, dogs and cats, at this point. Number 2, I think is unnecessary. I think we know that we can, and I don't think it needs to be in there.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Yes, I had a question. What is the status, through you to the CEO, what is the status of the review that was carried out in 2022, Dog and Cat Review? And because we've got a staff member on the board, what have we had a report back to say what's happening? Is the board being renewed? Is the minister, what's the minister doing? Do we know what's happening in that regard?
3 minute Mayor, Mr. Honorick may be able to enlighten us on that one.
Through the Mayor, for now, the board has essentially done what it needs to do. The board has done a review and made recommendations and presented that review to the Minister. It's up to the Minister now to progress that by way of a bill, but we don't know what the status of that is at this point.
And we don't have a staff.
And further, I'm getting advice from my right in that we no longer have staff on the board.
All right.
Any further questions or comments? I have a clear screen. Councillor Hallett. Councillor Jones just beat you.
Sorry, I've got a follow-up question to Councillor Davey. So, Mr. Heinrich, are you saying that the Dog and Cat Management Board has made recommendations to the Minister, but the Minister's just sitting on them?
Through the Mayor, the board's review contained in the review recommendations, along with contained discussion of issues and recommendations, albeit broad in some cases. For example, in relation to cats, the recommendation was that more work needs to be done in relation to cats around certain issues. I'm not sure if the Minister's sitting on it, but we don't know what is happening behind the scenes.
Now, Councillor Hallett.
I'm not sure whether... Well, I found out late last year when I was following up an inquiry from a resident who lives up above Penfold Road in Aldana and next to one of our reserves, and they were having a problem with wildcats in the reserve. And there is nothing council can do about that, apparently, because under the Dog and Cat Management Act, they only provide powers for certain officers to seize and detain cats. And our officers apparently aren't authorised to do anything about that. So instead of waiting for this review that the state is doing on the dog and cat management, I think that we should be writing to the Dog and Cat Management Board to say, as a matter of urgency, they need to correct that anomaly and allow council rangers to detain cats, wild cats, or cats that are loose in our parks and reserves. And we shouldn't, we've got no idea when they're going to produce this report. And in the meantime, cats can just go wild killing animals in our parks and reserves.
Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the CEO or the department, is it feasible to ask for a briefing from the Dog and Cat Management Board or the Chair? Just a quick presentation to give an overview of the status, where we're at, what the Minister's doing, just an overview, high level.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm not sure whether Mr Heinrich's got any thoughts on that. Like anything, we can ask them and see what they say, but I don't know if you have any thoughts, Mr Heinrich.
Through the Mayor, it's difficult to say what would come out of that. I suspect the best thing to do would be to seek some answers informally from the board, just to see if there would be any advantage in doing that. They probably know more than we do, but whether it's enough to satisfy the questions, it remains to be seen. So perhaps a question off to the side.
Just, if I may, Madam Mayor, sorry. The position that the board's taken with regards to the submission to government, is that a public document? Okay. Would it be worth circulating that to elected members for information? That may help as a starting point, just a suggestion.
Councillor Cornish.
Just a question, obviously, because I've actually commented. Can the administration tell me the legal responsibilities of cat owners under the Dog and Cat Management Act of 1995?
Through Madam Mayor, I think I know the answer to this one, but I'll ask Mr Heinrich to clarify.
Through the Chair, the cat owners have the responsibility to microchip cats and have them desexed once before they reach 3 months of age. There's also some vague responsibilities to not allow a cat to become a nuisance, but that is harder to manage, hence the requirement for some better management controls in the Act.
Is it also true that cats are, required to be registered as well on the Dogs and Cats online registration process?
Through Madam Mayor, just get Mr Heinrich to confirm.
Through the Mayor, it's a requirement for the microchip details to be registered. Not quite in the same way as a dog needs to be registered, but it's in effect the same thing.
Can I just ask, since there's no one on the screen, a follow-up question? Is there a restriction on the number of cats as there is a restriction on dogs? In Burnside?
Through you, the Mayor, not as it stands, other than if you have too many cats so as to cause a nuisance, there may be some controls through that mechanism, but there's no magic number like there is with dogs.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, I will go back to Councillor Davey on the amended motion.
Thank you, Mayor.
What happens then? Sorry, it goes back to, this is an amendment. We have to go straight to the vote, don't we?
Just give me a second.
Yeah. I think we go straight to the vote. Yeah. It's been a little while. No, we haven't. Yeah.
That's because you can talk to them now.
Right, I go straight to the vote then on the amended motion which is in front of you. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. So we now go back to the original motion, which was the original rescission motion of Councillor Jones.
Yes, but I think Councillor George wanted to speak on the substantive motion.
Councillor Davey, you've got your button on. Okay. So it was back to Councillor Jones.
So we just re-engage the debate.
I thought you were worried that speaking on the amendment, you couldn't then actually speak on the motion.
Yeah, he can still speak now.
Yeah. yes or no, but I wondered if you actually wanted to speak.
Now it's Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I will speak to this motion. I am in support of not going ahead with work on this issue at this stage, knowing that there are, and it is rumour, but knowing that on the horizon we do have amendments to the Act, I just feel that this is cart before the horse, and I think we're at risk of this being a complete waste of time and money. Not by any foolish reasons, but I just feel that we don't know what the goalposts are going to be. So I just think it's a prudent approach to wait for that to happen, and at that point we then go ahead with making bylaws for cats, which I agree we absolutely need. I just don't feel that the way the motion represents the best way of going about it. So my preference is to sit and wait and then we act.
Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I still propose we move a variation for the board to address us and give an opportunity to ask questions?
Would you be happy to take that as a variation, to add on? That we invite the board or request the board?
I don't see any problem with inviting the board to come and talk to us.
All right. All right. And that was Councillor.
Yeah, I think just that the chief. You mean how it's worded, or? I don't know.
Written up. Don't trust.
Or if Councillor David wants it formally, it could be something
it's
along the
just
lines
being
of
typed up now.
Dog and Cat Management Board Chair.
Chair. Right to the CEO writes to the chair.
Don't need to say that. Just that there's...
Madam Mayor, if I can just suggest that the board are presenting their review of the Act to the Minister, so it might be better to say, present to Council on their review of the Act.
Yeah. On their review of the Act.
And then we can expand it once they're in the room to whatever.
Sorry to keep harping, but you know, this is a significant problem, and we just doesn't seem to be getting picked up. And I'd like to add a third recommendation that says rights to the Minister to urgently amend the Act to include council rangers as authorised officers to trap and dispose of cats on council reserves and parks.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just spoken to Mr Heinrich, and his understanding is that as part of the review, the board are looking to make that recommendation to the minister. So it may be that it isn't already encapsulated, and I suspect they'll share that with us if they come and talk to us about the review. But our understanding is that's one recommendation that they are looking to make to the minister.
I think. Can I suggest that perhaps we wait until we get the document, Councillor Howlett, and then if there's nothing inherent in the document, then you could run a motion at council to write to the Dog and Cat Management Board at that point in time about your concerns. I know that there have been times when we have dealt with feral cats in Burnside, because when I was a Beaumont Ward councillor we did, with feral and diseased cats. So it's about how we can currently manage, and I think that might be a suggestion rather than an amendment to this motion, if you're happy with that. It's not going to make, nothing's going to make it happen any faster, that's a problem.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
I mean, we've just allocated a number of additional reserves where dogs have to be on leads. We seem to be missing the point. Cats do far more.
Is this debate or?
Totally agree, Councillor Hatt, but that's why I'm suggesting it might be a better time for another time to discuss it.
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. In relation to the board, I checked this afternoon the composition of the board, and Dr. Roteman is still on it. Has his
Roteman, I asked him about
term?
Before Christmas, he told me he was no longer on the board.
Right.
They are very slow to change that because Councillor Lemon was on there for about a year after she was elected.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Look, I think we've kind of come to something that we might all be able to agree with, and we've got another couple of motions to go, so I'm going to cut things short and ask for your support for this motion.
All those in favour? Against? Carried. And I believe you have something else you wish to request first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish to seek leave of the meeting, please, to run a motion without notice, councillors, to change the title ahead of the motion on notice in 13.2. And I'd wish to change the motion without notice is that council amend the title of item 13.2 for debate, and council minutes proposes to be the Planning and Design Code Amendment.
Councillor Henschke has already communicated with me about this, and I have agreed that we would do that. And the reason for that is that if we continue, no, Councillor Davey, the answer is quite legitimate. If we continue with that title, the previous title, then I will be having to ask Councillor Wilkins and Councillor Dawes to leave the room and not have any involvement in the debate, because they are members of the Council Assessment Panel. So I have agreed to this very unusual request, but I think it's a very important one, so that it maintains those two members being part of this discussion, which is an important discussion that goes beyond that particular address. Right. No, because there are about 4 other people on the list ahead of you. Now, Councillor Henschke, you have introduced that. Councillor Cornish, you are seconding.
I'll take my buzzer off.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm very happy to second the motion to change
the name
of,
thank you.
Of the next agenda item, as you've described, Your Worship. This is a broader thing about change of use of facilities and writing of residential property to commercial. This is not about one particular property at all. This is a broad issue. It happens a lot, and we need to remove that reference on the agenda item against that one property, which might be the issue at the moment that everyone around the table is getting email correspondence about, but this is a policy decision and not one specific issue. This is a broader issue than just one property.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Davey, if you wish to ask a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this not ultra vires? I totally understand the rationale for you.
No, it's not ultra
including
vires.
the two
It's not
members
ultra
of the
vires. I've already had that
You haven't heard
investigated.
my question, with respect.
Well, you just accused it being of ultra vires.
I asked a question. I'm asking a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm an elected member. I'm quite entitled
Go
to.
ahead.
My question is this not ultra vires, respecting that the members of the panel are around the table and the rationale that you were given? Because this has been advertised and is seen on the agenda as about development application 12 Sterling Street, Tusmore. We can't ignore that. So I just think we need some legal opinion about whether this is the right thing to do. And then I'll be content with debating it. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm pleased to advise that Mr Spearman actually got specific legal advice on this one, and the clear advice was we do have the ability to change it and we won't draw ourselves into any legal argument.
Now, Councillor, sorry, do we have to vote on that? We do have to vote on that change of motion title. Yes. First of all, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter or ask a question? Councillor Hallett?
I just want to ask, what does ultra vires mean?
Yeah, so just to clarify, ultra vires means against the law of the land.
Yeah.
So it's not against legal or the law of the land.
Okay, so there's no one else who wishes to speak. Do you wish to speak again, Councillor Henschke? Are you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put the motion. Those in favour of the change, of the amendment of the title?
I've got no understanding of what number 2 is. We haven't had...
We are just changing the title. It's up on the screen. The council amends the title of item 13.2. Right, those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against, the motion is carried. Now we are moving you can move the motion with a different title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you all councillors. I move that the Council writes to the Minister for Planning to request that the state government consider undertaking a code amendment which has the effect of reducing the ability of non-residential uses to be established in zones where the primary purpose is residential, particularly where there is a historic area overlay, and consideration should be given to including policies to the same effect as number 1 above in the Council's Master Plan Code Amendment. And that's the City Master Plan, the Burnside City Master Plan that that's referring to. So tonight we heard from the Deputy, and accompanying the Deputy were a number of residents representing those who support the Deputy, living there for 45 years, who are calling for amendments to policy. Also have here a letter from the East Residents Association, also calling for Burnside Council to develop and strengthen the policies to reflect the position we've heard tonight by the Deputy, and that we advocate to the state government as per this motion. So the Chief Executive Officer report, the comments there in our agenda papers spell it out very clearly. This is about writing to the Minister to again raise concerns that we've already covered in previous submissions on the draft planning and design code. And previously the government refused and maintained that there are policies that can manage all of this. But you can see tonight that this policy set is not functioning as intended. When you have residential suburbs, established neighbourhood zones, which we have all over the city of Burnside. The policy set intends that we can have small offices and shops, make people's lives better so that they can walk to services and facilities. When we have applications for intensive offices, this becomes problematic. So the plan is that we pursue these changes to zone policy as part of our City Master Plan Code amendment process. And as in our papers, the administration is fully supportive of proceeding in this way, and it's quite doable. It might mean that the City of Burnside is the first to have these changes in our zone policy to restrict commercial development of intensive scale. But why not? Let's be leaders in this and protect the amenity and of our neighbourhoods. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish, seconding. Do you wish
I'll
to speak
second
now?
and reserve my right, thanks.
Right. Then I will move to Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship. Couple of questions at this point. First of all, just in response to what Councillor Henschke said just at the end of that opening about City Burnside having its own rules, that's what I understood you to mean, Councillor Henschke. Can I get some clarity? Because my understanding was that's not something that is possible under the new system. Could you clarify that for me, please?
So, through in a bit, I'll get Mr. Heinrich just to clarify that for us.
Excuse me, through the mayor, the rules that we're talking about relaxing non-residential uses in residential type zones or neighbourhood zones, they were deliberately brought in by the Commission when they developed the code in the first place. And at the time, the council argued against the introduction of such policies for the very reasons that we're hearing about tonight. And at the time, the Commission didn't accept the argument. So for that reason, while nothing's impossible, it would seem unlikely that the Commission would allow special rules, if you like, for Burnside, or to pull back on that deliberate policy shift at all. So not impossible, but it would seem unlikely.
If I could just add to what Mr. Heinrich said, it was one of the key components of the changes was driving commercial uses into the suburbs. So it would be a major wind back.
I have a second question. It's not related, so should I wait or can I go?
You can go ahead with your second question.
Can I get a reminder about what the parameters relating to this limited commercial use in residential areas? Can I just get a rehash on exactly what that is? There was some sort of percentage of the property or something like that. Could you just give us some commentary around that for all our benefit, please?
Hopefully. Through Madam Mayor, Mr. Heinrich.
Through the mayor, the code will speak of some forms of uses that may be considered to be in neighbourhood zones. The more, I guess the ones with the less impact that are more akin to a residential use, like an office or a consulting room. It doesn't speak about the introduction of industrial type uses or heavy uses like that. It's more uses that, in the view of the Commission, can be more compatible with a residential zone and have less of an impact. And from memory, I'm in danger of making up numbers here, but it's between 50 and 100 square metres is the sort of order that I think the code speaks about. But that's not a definitive answer, but a rough answer. I think over 100 square metres brings in public notification. That's one threshold.
Now, Councillor Day.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Where can I read what is Resolution 1 in the Master Plan Code Amendment, please? I have no idea what it is. We're being asked to vote.
Through Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr Cant.
Sorry, my understanding, the way it's written, the resolution one that's quoted there refers to the preceding paragraph in the motion. Is that correct, Councillor Henschke?
Through Madam Mayor, we just need clarification from Councillor Henschke on what the second part of your motion is referring to.
Through, if I may, through the Mayor, I think my reading of it is that Resolution 1 is that the Council writes to the Minister about this topic. Yeah. And then secondly, Council gives consideration to dealing with the same topic in its own code amendment. That's a double barrel thing. We ask the Minister to do it, and then we have a crack at it as well.
Did that clarify, Councillor Davey?
No, I've got no idea what that is.
Just
sorry.
to,
I'm going into section 61 here.
I'll just restate it. So the motion 1 that is before you is as written. When you get to point 2, it says consideration should be given to including the policies to the same effect as Resolution 1 above in our Master Plan Code Amendment. So it's saying put what is in motion 1 into our Master Plan Code Amendment. That's what it's seeking to achieve.
That we've already lodged, is that the case? Master Plan Code Amendment?
No, I haven't lodged it as yet.
Right.
Where can I read the Council's Master Plan Code Amendment?
Sorry,
no idea.
through the Mayor, it's not ready yet. The first step is to submit I forget the terminology, but it's an initiation document. So the initiation document is like a statement of intent to the Minister that deals with what sorts of things the Council's trying to achieve in the Code Amendment, and I'm going to get some expansion from Mr Kent.
Councillor Davey, you'll recall that we organised a session for each ward councils as partners with respect to what the Code Amendment, the City Master Plan, will actually do across the city. Yours was one of the ones that was unfortunately postponed because we had a staff resignation at the time. We now have a new staff member on board. We're bringing up to speed as of last week. So we are now in the process of rescheduling those appointments for those who have not gone through that process yet, and you'll certainly be on that list prior to us then presenting to all of Council and then presenting as a confidential report.
Thank you. I still am confused though. Is there not a document that is in existence? If this is referenced, that we can at least reference on the web under our...
Yeah, so through Madam Mayor, the document, the Master Plan Code Amendment is the document that's currently being put together. So what it's referring to is the body of work that was undertaken looking at densities, building heights within each of the wards.
So what we're being asked is that we need to add this to that document. Oh, well, can we word it accordingly so that I can...
You'll have to refer that. To be fair, this is Councillor Henschke's motion of notice, that's all.
Thanks.
I guess the important thing is, apart from it being Councillor Henschke's motion, that whatever the intent is, that we are going to include this in the policy and the council staff understand exactly where it's going from here. If you want greater clarification than that, Councillor Davey, then we have to go back to Councillor Henschke.
I think if that's the intent, it needs to be worded accordingly.
Councillor Cornish, have you got some suggestion? Since you seconded it.
Yeah, I do.
You haven't spoken yet. Councillor Jones, can you turn your mic off, please? And I'll turn mine off as well.
Can I ask my questions.
I will put you down as next, okay?
I'm sorry.
Harvey follows and then you, and we do need to tidy this up.
Are you ready, Bron? Okay, so let's start with include in number 2. So we're only working on number 2. So get rid of consideration should be given to, so delete all that. And then include, not including, sorry, you can, yeah, okay. Includes policies as above, get rid of the rest of that line, apart from in, keep the in. There we go, in Council's Master Code Amendment currently being prepared. Yeah? Okay.
Thank you.
Press your button.
I've got you back on the screen now.
Councillor Dawes moves a variation. Oh, I moved. Thank you. I just waited for it. Not a variation.
Okay, everyone, I hope now everyone is happy, and I will move now on to the next comments or questions. Councillor Jones.
I've got a two-part question, if I may.
I just have to wait till people stop talking.
Yeah. So look, my question is, zones where the primary purpose is residential, it seems to me would include the established neighbourhood zone, the suburban neighbourhood zone, the general neighbourhood zone, the housing diversity neighbourhood zone. Have I missed any? And that's part one of the question. Part two, does this not directly contradict our city master plan that we've gone out to go to consultation on, where we've actually said there are parts of the city we would quite like housing and business to coexist, with business on the ground floor, apartments for older and younger people on top of them. I just cannot square the circle, but so that's my question, please.
Through the Mayor, it's an interesting question. I think anything with the word neighbourhood in it is intended to be primarily a residential zone, so I think most of it, if not all, were just listed then. I think the question centres around housing on main roads where it's intended to have a mixed use. I don't think the intent of, without putting words in the mover's mouth, I don't think the intent of the motion is to really deal with those zones. It's more the non-mixed use residential zones where it's just residential essentially. So not the mixed use ones on main roads.
Councillor Hallett.
Mine is a question. In our code amendment, how much commercial is going to be tolerated and how much won't be? Because in this day and age where people are working from home more and have an office in their home, where you might be, doing some carpentry in your shed and some other activities that people are, small activities that people run from their homes, like car repairs, and they actually get paid for them for doing those. What will be tolerated there and what won't be? Because I'm not quite sure. I know it's clarified here again, but I'm still not really sure what this means. It's just not clear in regard to what's going to be allowed and what isn't. What is commercial and what isn't, and what's the tipping point for it?
Through Madam Mayor,
Yes.
this is a difficult question to answer, but what I can provide for you is that under the code there's a certain class of business which wouldn't be caught by this, which is essentially, for example, the person who's working from home a few days a week, or the person is not using more than 30 square metres of their property. And they're businesses that you shouldn't be able to notice from the street, i.e. you can do them quietly within the confines of your premise. This wouldn't affect that, and that would still be able to occur. This is looking to focus on more commercialised business, I think is the right language to use. Does that help a little bit? I'm sorry, I can't give a more definitive answer to your question.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank
You're
you,
going to
Worship.
speak now.
I will speak now. And I'd like everyone to picture living at home and the house next door to them, okay? And let's just think that all of a sudden you're notified that that is going to be turned into a doctor's surgery. They're going to rip out the backyard and put in a car park, and you're going to have 100 people coming in and going out a day, parking on the street in front of your house, and really changing the amenity of the area. And it's not on a main road, you're in the middle of a suburb. It's not next to a current community zone where there are other businesses that you would benefit from. This is about protecting the core residential areas of our city. And we should be looking at writing to the Minister. We should be asking him to provide us with a bit more better protection. I agree with Councillor Harvey. I think number 2 is going to be a long shot. But let's, we've tried long shots and asked for long shots before, but then again, they've turned this thing down on us many, many times. Let's just try it again. Our residents are asking us to try again. We'll try again. I think we've done more in this space than any other council in South Australia to try and to raise these issues. and unfortunately, it's a constant thing. In our ward, we've had 2 in the last 3 years. And when you get one in your ward, you'll hear about it. You really will hear about it. And, you know, you'll want to say, well, we've actually been proactive in this area. So please support this motion in showing that we're actually trying to be proactive in stopping the degradation of our residential amenity in our beloved suburbs. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Look, I see where the proposer and second are coming from, but I think that one is hopelessly broad in referring to residential, primary purposes of residential, because that's 100% of the housing stock of the city. If it was established neighbourhood zone with a historic overlay, well, I might be able to live with that. But this will just get thrown in the bin. My bigger concern is by tacking it on to our master plan code amendment, which I think will be hard enough to get through as it is. The minister and his advisors are going to say, these guys are crackers. Are they serious, these people? It's just not going to happen. And we risk jeopardising what I think is actually a good idea, a good compromise of trading off bigger blocks in the hinterland for the higher density on the arterial roads. Is a good idea, and one that I've talked to people in politics, and they say, oh, I think we could live with that. But I think if we go in and say, oh, by the way, we don't want any developments in the general neighbourhood zone or the housing diversity zone, they're going to say, you guys are living in cloud cuckoo land, and we'll throw out your whole code amendment. So that's what I perceive as the biggest risk of this. Now, if next time you want to come up with a more restricted motion, I might support that, but I can't support this.
Councillor Hubble.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for where this is coming from, but I actually disagree with this being a bad thing as a blanket rule, because there are obviously some very risky situations, as have been outlined, but I think there are some also very good limited commercial uses that we should not be restricting. You know, just a couple of things off the top of my head. Someone wants to do tutoring for school children after school in their front room. That sort of business. A counsellor or a psychologist, for example, consulting out of their granny flat. These sorts of things would be beneficial. And I know, but I...
So don't
well,
interrupt. Sorry, I'm just asking people not to interrupt you.
I feel that pushing non-residential use would mean that wouldn't be allowed, because that's non-residential use. It is.
Please, they have shown respect for you when you've been speaking. So.
Those things I suggested, they are non-residential use. Seeing students to tutor them in your front room, that's non-residential use. So, you're still shaking your head at me, Councillor Henschke, but this is clumsy in the way it's been put forward, and I absolutely can think of some horrible things that could come out of this, but there are some wonderfully good things as well. And I think that is the spirit that the state government had in mind with pushing this as a major proponent of their changes, and I just think we need to tread a little bit more carefully and purposefully with exactly how we phrase what our wishes and desires are.
I have no one left on the screen now. No, Councillor Wilkin.
I am here. As a person who lives in a historic area overlay, and it is a tight community and always has been since it was first started in 1880 by the builders who lived in the neighbourhood. I think it's important that we do highlight the non-residential uses. We do not want incursion into our historic areas, and I totally agree with the residents who spoke this evening. As it is currently, I know of an accountant, a psychologist, and an architect working in a residential area. Just quietly, individually, sole traders, non-intrusive. But if you get a garage or a, heaven forbid, somebody having male customers coming at all hours of the day in your neighbourhood, totally not on. So yes, I am going to support this. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I just a question, and I might have to bring Mr. Heinrich in again, CEO, but I thought he was trying to explain to us what is allowed anywhere, even in a historic area. I think it was less than 30 square metres, I think he said, and that doesn't disobey any rules of the code. Can Mr. Heinrich again explain to us what this motion won't change? What will be allowed? But I'm just thinking what Councillor Hubel has just said.
Yes, certainly. Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Heinrich.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, there's a definition in the Act called home activity, which is carried over from the old Act. A home activity, if it is a home activity, is something that doesn't need any approval at all. So this won't affect that. So home activity is, as the CEO said before, is a very low, is a benign use, a low impact use, and doesn't involve the use of, for example, more than 30 square metres of your house, and doesn't involve the assistance of more than one person who doesn't live in the house. And there are a few other things that go with it, but they're the highlights. Then there's the next bracket. Above that, if something's not a home activity, then it will need an approval. And so between that 30 square metres and 100, it's probably in the area where public notification isn't required, and then once it gets to over 100, then public notification is generally required. So there's sort of three different areas there. This motion, I think, is about winding back the policy, I assume, to much like it was before, where a lot of these non-residential uses were in the old language non-complying. It's unlikely to happen for a couple of reasons. Firstly, for the reasons the CEO said, but also because the equivalent of non-complying in the new Act is restricted, and the Commission's been much more reluctant to use that category of development. The alternative for the Commission is to not make it restricted, but to wind back the positive language policy. I think that answers the question.
Any further questions or comments? Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll support this motion. I really felt for the people who came in for the deputation. They brought in good faith into their area, and now they're under great stress and anxiety as to what's going to happen. Not on. And I don't want a doctor's surgery next to me either, thank you.
Any further questions or comments, please? Otherwise, I'll go back to Councillor Henschke. Councillor Henschke?
Okay, right. Well, thank you to the administration, because it's a planning, you've got to be a planning expert in all of this. But quite simply, we're welcoming, always welcome, range of facilities and services within convenient walking distance, the hairdresser, the tutor, the hairdresser, small offices, fine. It's what's always been there in our development plans. What we're talking about tonight, and what the administration's pointed out to us, is we're now feeling what the new planning and design code's doing. And what it is what we heard tonight. 100 square metres, it starts, that the dial says bang, public consultation, this is intensive, this is an intensive office. 100 square metres, 2 bedrooms. What happens if we convert a whole house into an office? The dial goes again. All the residents within 60 metres get advised. And when do they get advised? On Christmas. Christmas Eve, you know, councillors get phone calls. What's happening? No one's resting. No one's at peace at Christmas because they're stressed and worried about the whole huge bungalow or you know, house that used to belong to so-and-so being converted into an entire office, which could have a capacity of, say, 10 staff one day, etc., needs 10 car parks. So, okay, let's, you know, case by case, you know, there are arranged provisions in this policy set, you know, in the code, and let's go through it and let's bring the community along with us. But why do we want to put people through this? We have historic areas and the only time you get historic areas, Councillor Jones, is in an established neighbourhood zone. You cannot get a historical overlay in any of the other zones you're talking about. So what you were saying before was actually incorrect. So you cannot have a historic overlay over a commercial zone. So it's only established neighbourhood zones. We're not talking about the whole of the city, Burnside. We're just talking about those old areas of Di Wilkins and Jennings, and all of us have got historic areas. And our City Master Plan Code Amendment is about protecting more heritage and amenity. We will lose the fabric of our history of this whole city if we don't push again and write a letter. All this is writing a letter, so please support it and support our residents who we've heard tonight and hundreds of residents from the Residents Association.
Sorry, point of order is being called. We'd hold the clock.
Councillor Henschke is misleading the chamber on 2 accounts. She's just said it's only writing a letter. It's not writing a letter. It's changing our master plan code amendment. And secondly, she says it only applies to historic areas. It doesn't. It applies to all zones which are primarily residential, which takes you as far as the housing diversity neighbourhood zone, which is Pineview, or the one next door to Victoria Grove, or the Glenside development. So please don't tell me it's only covering the historic.
To repeat it. Yeah. I have to say that Councillor Jones is correct. So can you just clarify those last couple of statements and restate them, please?
I just want to clarify that where the zones are primarily residential, that we do try to protect the integrity of those zones for those residents.
Thank you. All right, I will put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Sorry, the motion is not, it is carried. No, yes, it's carried. The motion, I was right the first time. Division's been called, so those of you who voted in favour or are intending to vote in favour, please put your hands up. Councillor Zing, Davey, Wilkins, Jennings, Dawes, Turnbull, Hallett, Harvey, Cornish and Henschke. Those against, Councillor Jones and Councillor Hubel. I think that's the right number, yes. All right, now I just want to alert you to, we still have the confidential item and we must do it tonight. So it's not 25 past yet, but I'm suggesting, unless you think it's going to happen awfully quickly, that we make a decision now to extend at least 10 minutes beyond the 10:30. If we finish earlier than that, of course, we will finish earlier. All right, let's try. All right, you happy with that? An indication? Okay. All right, so we now have to move into confidential mode. Councillor Cornish, you love doing those?
As read.
Okay, as read, fine. All right, so we just need some time. Is there anyone who does need to leave the chamber? Oh, no, sorry, we need a seconder. Councillor Wilkins, that's fine. I'm taking some hand signals. No, I shouldn't. Yeah. That's fine. All those in favour? Moving into confidential mode. Against? Carried. Right, and there's no one to leave, so we can continue on, is that right? All right.